Hello everybody, it's Brian for GadgetUnit.com, and in this video I'll be taking a look at the LG G4, specifically for T-Mobile. If you're interested in the G4, you can get it for $24.99 per month for 24 months from T-Mobile. If you don't mind paying the full price from the get-go, you can get it for $599.76, which isn't too bad considering most of the other flagship smartphones from other manufacturers are a good $50 to $150 more. I'd also like to thank T-Mobile for sending this out to me for review. It has no shortage of power and features, though it may not be for everybody, as you'll see in a little while. You'll find the full list of specs in the written review that's linked down below in the video's description. So first, let's start with design and hardware. The G4's display has a very subtle curve to it, and as minor as it is something that you will notice at some point. Like the G3 and the G2, the buttons are on the back, which not a lot of people might like, though I was able to get used to this relatively quickly, though there are still certain situations where it can get a little bit annoying. For example, if the phone is laying on a table, you can't access the power button, nor can you access the volume button, so you have to do all that using the double tap gesture to turn the display on and off, or to use a software-based volume adjustment. My unit has the genuine leather brown backplate, which looks, feels, and smells like you would expect it to. The back of the device is also a little bit curved, so it's very comfortable to hold with one hand, though it can be a bit slippery. Even though most of the device is plastic, it doesn't feel cheap, and I think it should hold up for quite some time, so long as you aren't abusing the phone. Of course, the two volume buttons are on the back in addition to the power button. On the back is also the 16 megapixel rear-facing camera, laser-guided autofocus system, and the dual-tone LED flash. There are no buttons on the side, but at the top we do have a microphone, the IR blaster, while at the bottom is the 3.5mm headset jack, another microphone, and the micro USB 2.0 port. Like other LG smartphones, the speaker is located on the back, but on the bright side, it's one of the loudest smartphone speakers I've ever heard, even at its maximum volume. It really doesn't sound half bad. The display is one of the strongest hardware features of the G4. It can get very bright, but it can also get fairly low in terms of brightness. Like most of today's high-end screens, colors aren't overblown and viewing angles are great. It can also be used outdoors and in direct sunlight with ease. In fact, it's one of the best smartphones I've used for outdoor use. I've had no issues with touchscreen responsiveness as well. And now it's time to talk about the software for a little bit. The G4 runs Android 5.1, better known as Lollipop. LG has their own interface layer on top of that, adding plenty of colorful icons and features without sort of stepping beyond the boundary and into overdoing it territory. Everything seems to operate in a straightforward manner. LG does have some of their own features, such as Quick Remote, which lets you use the IR blaster at the top, which basically turns the smartphone into a remote control. You can also run two apps at once, one at the top half of the screen and the other on the bottom half, called Dual Window. You can also run up to 3 applications at the same time with Q-Slide, which brings up applications in their own little small pop-out window. And like other smartphones, you can double tap the display while it's off to turn it on, and you can also do the same thing while at your lock screen to turn the display off. Performance has been very strong throughout. The G4 isn't even remotely slow. Animations are smooth, multitasking is very fluid, applications launch very quickly and perform fine afterwards. Games performed beautifully as well, giving me better frame rates than pretty much any Android device I've used so far. The only downside is that the device can get fairly warm rather quickly, but nothing to where you would have to worry about what you're doing. Battery life might actually be the weakest point of the G4, and despite having a 3000 mAh battery and Quick Charge 2.0, I found that I could most of the time make it through the entire day with moderate to heavy usage. If I really watch what I do, then I should be able to get into 2 to 3 day territory, in addition to using the power saving mode. But compared to some other devices doing similar things throughout the day, it's not as strong as those devices. So standby time is good, but once you start doing advanced things like heavy LTE video streaming or playing graphically demanding games, the battery life is definitely going to drain much faster than it would on other devices. Call quality and network performance of course depends on where you are. T-Mobile in my area is generally pretty strong, and HD voice calls of course sound very clear. Even non-HD voice calls to regular devices sound pretty good as well. The G4 also supports voice over LTE and Wi-Fi calling. Where I happen to live, T-Mobile's 4G LTE speeds are very fast, sometimes exceeding 100 megabits per second on the download. The G4 also hangs onto low signals very well. And last but not least, the camera. The G4 has one of the best smartphone cameras around, if not the best camera so far. In most cases, the photos turned out simply fantastic with rich detail and colors that aren't really blown out of proportion. It also works fairly well indoors, or with areas of low amounts of light. The camera can also take photos very quickly, and the laser-guided autofocus system really does shine. The camera does have optical image stabilization, which also works for 4K video recording, which other phones it simply does not work for any type of stabilization. Audio when recording videos are fine as well. The camera app has a simple mode and auto mode as well as a manual mode, which gives you a number of options to take over. The simple mode is interesting because all you have on your screen is a back button. All you have to do to take a photo is to tap the screen and the photo is taken. I think most people will find themselves using the auto mode, as then you can adjust the flash and some other options. So to conclude, I've been enjoying the LG G4 quite a bit. Its combination of simple software, good looks, and extraordinary camera make it something pretty special actually. Without a doubt, the LG G4 will be one of this year's top smartphones, if not the best smartphone around. Even though the battery life wasn't quite as strong as it is on other devices, which could be due to software things that hopefully we'll see an update for eventually, it's still a great device. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback about this or anything else, feel free to leave those down below in the comments area. But that is it with the video, so thanks a lot for watching and I'll talk to you guys soon.